Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry I'm late. We had a conference with the Senate Armed Services Committee. I'm a conferee. This is actually a subject matter that I've spent a fair amount of time with. My wife serves on a board for an organization in the middle part of the state called Industries for the Blind, where literally blind persons, ironically, are making eyeglasses for persons with sight. In fact, if you come to my office, you can see we've got a display dedicated to it. And I've also spent some time in western North Carolina, where we have an organization called IOI, which has persons with disabilities doing just incredible work, including sewing and making products that are ultimately sold to the DOD. In fact, tourniquets that go into almost every EMT facility now was a collaboration between a firm or special operator and folks at IOI. And then I personally have served on a board that oversaw Lifespan, which is a work skills training entity in the middle part of North Carolina that actually does in-source work to give people job skills and gives them an opportunity to go work with the businesses. And finally, just about 3 weeks ago, I was at a place called Biddy and Bowes. And it's a coffee shop in Wilmington, North Carolina that's gotten a lot of attention recently. 39, the vast majority of their staff are persons with disabilities. And if you want a battery charge, go to Biddy and Bowes and get a cup of coffee first. It's a great cup of coffee. Rachel Ray, it's her official coffee now. They're about to open a facility in Charleston. I tell you those stories to tell you that really getting in and seeing how these operations work and the challenges that they have, you have to really understand the inner workings, how the economics work, how they can actually create a business model that's sustainable, because quite honestly, if we want to attack the challenge of the disproportionately high number of people who are underemployed or unemployed or persons with disabilities, we've got to be smart about it, and we've got to work with businesses to be absolutely certain that we're compensating persons for the skills that they do. They need to be paid whatever the market rate would be for those skills, regardless of who's doing it. But by the same token, I think we have to take a look at how many of these, and I would probably point to IOI out in western North Carolina, about how they're also trying to provide a service and really Lifespan, not only for those who can work and be in compensated jobs, but enrichment centers and engagement with other persons with more severe disabilities where they may not have that opportunity. And the community, but for these businesses, these private sector enterprises, that they may be in underserved communities. So we have to get it right and not necessarily jump to an extreme to where we pass a well-intentioned law that on the one hand looks good on paper, but on the other hand creates barriers so that these private sector solutions can no longer thrive and grow, like the Biddy and Bowes that's in Wilmington and now about to open one up in Charleston. So then that's a lead into my question. How do we, as a matter of public policy, look at the things that we should be doing to incent more industries for the blind, more IOIs, more Lifespans, and more Biddy and Bowes versus a well-intentioned person who thinks it's now time to nationalize this and make it a big government-regulated entity, which will almost certainly reduce the leverage and the opportunities for persons with disabilities? That's the only question I have. I'd like a response from anybody here who'd like to talk about it.
I'd be happy, Senator, to answer your question. I think at the end of the day, employment for anyone, and certainly people in employment with disabilities, is about being matched up to work you're interested in and can do well. And I think part of what's incumbent on community, society, businesses is to discover, one person at a time, what are the interests and talents that a person has, and can we get them matched up with that work. I guess I would argue that many of us, maybe most of us in this room, could name 15, 20, 50 jobs that we wouldn't be very good at. And we spend a fair amount of time trying to get matched up with work that suits us, that we can be both productive, contributing, and happy. And sometimes I think with people with disabilities, it takes a little while to discover that, and that it's worth the discovery to try to get that match right.
If I could, Senator, just to add to that and to add to something that I had said earlier, part of Swerwing's approach with this has been the cultivation of relationships with local businesses. So we spend a lot of time helping raise awareness, helping a business to feel comfortable bringing somebody in with an intellectual disability when they haven't otherwise thought of it in advance. And so there really is a partnership that develops. And so in terms of a model or a direction for this, I would say that local partnerships are critical and being able to help increase understanding as well as acceptance of people. And then I think to your point, Dr. Mank, the whole fit for individuals in being and having some patience, but also a process to be able to help folks identify the jobs that are a good fit for them. It's part of the solution.
Well, having been Speaker of the House before I came up here 2.5 years ago, one thing I'm really encouraged, if you go out and you go into the community, and I've literally gone, we call it Manteo to Murphy, that's the span of the state. I've literally been in several facilities across the state, and the most inspiring ones that I've seen are when state government, private enterprise, state government, and local government entities and organizations supporting persons with disabilities come together. And I think our role is to figure out how we can facilitate that, not supplant it, and be very mindful of well-intentioned policies that could ultimately have the reverse effect in terms of the opportunities, and we should have increased opportunities for persons with disabilities. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you very much, Senator Tillis. I wanted